fucking insanity. Alex Jones was telling me about that over a decade ago. There's an island,
that's nuts.
They compromise people on this island. They get them go there. These are hot girls. They look hot, but they're 16. He's telling me this whole thing. I was like, what?
That's the thing about Alex Jones is that he'd always have this method of like, he throws a lot of shit at the wall.
They're turning the frogs gay.
Yeah, but that one turned out to be right too, or more or less kind of right, you know, or maybe trans, whatever the frogs are. It's doing something.
Changing their sex.
Yeah. But like and by the way, the thing is that there's too many people who are like, Alex Jones was right, and there are a lot of things he was right about, but there's also a ton of things he was wrong about that he's just say with certainty. Like, and I have the information, I have all this and this, and it's like, this, just none of this is true. I remember right after 9/11, he was going into this thing about how we're going to get in a nuclear war because Iran already has the nukes and they're going to use them. And I had this whole thing about how, like, he goes, Iran has nuclear weapons. I have the documents to prove this. We've got the sources off the record. But and it's just none of that was right, you know? But then there's like the thing that he's right about. Like, being right about the Epstein Island thing is so fucking crazy, dude.
So wild. So wild.
And then
he was also right about Bohemian Grove.
Yep.
I mean, people forget about that. I mean, he was in Bohemian Grove in like the 90s when they filmed all that.
Yeah.
Which is, you watch that ceremony, you're like, what are you doing? Like, what do you guys are dressing up like druids and you're burning an effigy in front of an owl god?
Yeah.
And you're speaking on loudspeakers about this owl god Moloch?
This is really what they do.
Yeah.
This is what they do.
That's real.
And it's like, I'm not saying that we're living in this like this biblical world where there is like,
I'll say it.
Well, I'm not saying that there is a God and a Satan. I'm not saying there's not. I mean, I believe in God. But I'm saying they believe they're living in this world and they believe they're like on Team Satan or something like that. Because they do. It is very bizarre. I know these are the type of things that you're not allowed to bring up because, oh, now you're a nutty conspiracy theorist, but we have proof of this happening. It's not, Bohemian Grove isn't just like we have actual video footage of it. We don't know everyone who's there. We know Nixon was there, and we know he said it was the faggotiest thing he's ever seen in his life, and he wanted to wash his hands, or he didn't want to shake people's hands there. Like, this is all real, and it does look like, when we played that clip before of Madeleine Albright being like, yeah, that 500,000 dead children, that's worth it. Like, the price is worth it. It does kind of like, you start to kind of ask these questions where you're like, okay, so there are these people who are comfortable making decisions that lead to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of children. And we know in many cases they're making these decisions based off profit. And you're like,
isn't that satanic?
Yeah, like, so who is that person?
Right.
Like, who the fuck is that person? Is it like they just do that at work and then they clock out and they're just like us? Or are they clocking out and doing some weird ritual at the Bohemian Grove? You know what I mean?
And when Mark Andreessen was on, he brought up this. He was the one that brought up the Satanist who was also the rocket scientist, right? At Los Alamos Labs. Was that him that brought that up? No, it wasn't. You know who it was? It was the opposite of Mark Andreessen. It was Python Cowboy. Right? Python Cowboy, the guy that's who it was. Andreessen brought up the nuclear tests, about how the videos are weird of the nuclear tests. Like, there's a truck behind this building, and then all of a sudden the truck disappears. Like, it's very weird. Or the truck appears. Like, I forget which one, but it's like, and also like, how are they filming this? And there's all these conspiracies. He wasn't saying it was real, but he's like, the conspiracies are that this was all rigged, that it was fake. But there was a guy who was, they were doing this thing where they were removing pythons from this place in Florida. And they got to this place, and he took all this video footage of this elaborate satanic ritual setup that they had down there, where they had things written on the wall in Latin, and they had a girl's bloody dress, and they had a chair that was covered in something red, and they're trying to figure out what the fuck was going on, and he wound up getting out of there. But then he found out that the history of that lab itself, that the guy who founded that lab was an open Satanist. Jack Parsons. Pull up those articles about him.
Yeah,
because we were
bizarre,
playing
man.
it during the show. It's like, what? So this guy was involved in this nuclear weapons lab, and he's also an open Satanist? Like, what?
Yeah, that is fucking really
like,
strange.
would wear the fucking outfits and go to these things, and this was in like the 50s?
And it does make you wonder to some degree. You're like, are you like,
Here
like,
it
is there really a Satan, and are you really a part of his thing, or is this just some weird game you're playing?
Yeah, like, look how these fucking people would dress, man. Look how insane this is. Go to that article. So the article is so bizarre. Sex, rocket scientists, and Satanism. Meet NASA's real hidden figures. Satanism. I mean, what? And this guy was a part of their program, and he was fucking openly in the Church of Satan. Like, look how they would dress. It was like walking into a Fellini movie. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck, man? Look at these people. These are the people that were responsible for this?
That's
like,
Aleister Crowley.
oh my God.
Well, even like
How insane are these fucking people?
with the Epstein thing was, I mean, I guess it's not exactly this, but you remember the like the pictures, the paintings that they found from him? There's one with George W. Bush when he's like a little kid and he's playing with the blocks that are in the towers.
Yeah.
And then there's like what is it, Bill Clinton in a dress or something
Yeah.
like that. Look, it's not exactly Satanist shit, but it's still just kind of this weird, like,
Well, the Clinton
what is
thing
this?
to me was like clear that like you have the president in a fucking dress, and we've talked about this. There's like a little fucking screenshot of me talking about it with Duncan. Where like that is to me, I got you. That's,
Yeah.
I got you, bitch. Like,
And the George W. Bush one seems to be kind of like different, but a similar, like, this
Yeah.
idiot has no idea what the fuck's going on.
exactly, he's got a doofus looking look on his face, and
But it's the planes in two towers, right? I mean, that seems to be like a 9/11
yeah.
reference,
I mean, and if
right?
you're a guy who is supposedly the conspiracy is that he was part of the intelligence agency, that he was something Mossad or something,
Either Mossad or CIA or
or a
something,
combination of
yeah,
those
yeah.
two. If you're that guy, you probably get like a real thrill out of having all this dirt on these incredibly important people, and then have like pictures of them looking stupid in your house.
Yeah, yeah.